Hi everybody, I'm Alison Hubbard. I'm a Senior Director of Product Marketing at Riverbed, covering the SteelFusion technology. And today we're going to talk about Modernizing Edge IT. Let's talk about the edge a little bit. The edge, the branch, remote IT, kind of convenient terms that we all use. They're pretty much used in the IT context, but what do they really mean? Let's kind of take a look at the edge for a moment. Some of you guys might work for manufacturing companies where the edge might represent a plant or a factory facility. It could represent an oil rig or an oil rig out at sea. It could represent hundreds of retail stores. The edge could represent legal offices or consulting offices or even a mission on a naval ship out at sea. Lots of different things, and all those things look very, very different, but what do they all have in common? Well, what they have in common is they are the edges of business. They are the front lines where business is getting done, where revenue is getting generated, and where we need to keep workers productive always so that, again, we can get that business done. And so for you IT professionals, that's your job, to keep those workers always productive, always on the edge so that business can get accomplished. But there are a lot of challenges that come in tow with remote IT, right? I know you guys encounter this every day. Let's kind of go over this. So first and foremost, what we know is that about 50% of your employees in our organizations are working in remote offices. The challenge with that is almost none of those employees are skilled IT workers. So that if something goes wrong, oftentimes you have to parachute somebody in order to fix the problem and continue to keep workers productive, right? Next thing we know is that about 50% of data is sitting out in those edge locations, vulnerable to theft or breach or tampering with. And today, we've become a data-centric world. Our relationship with data has changed. At the end of the day, data is an opportunity for your organization to stay competitive, for you to connect better with your customers. And how would you like to be the person who is responsible for data being lost, right? So what we also know is that as a result of these challenges, about 50% of IT budgets are being spent on remote office IT. And so, with those challenges of data being vulnerable to loss and employees not being able to be supported as easily as we'd like, why are we spending so much money on that? There's got to be a simpler way. But let's take a look at simplicity in IT. The last several years, in fact, for as long as I can remember, and I've been around this stuff for a while, as long as I can remember, the innovation has really been on the data center side. Let's just take a look at the last 5 years. In the last 5 years, we've seen innovation, for example, in the storage community. We've seen scale-up integrated technologies come into being and really popular, in the discussion. But those are really meant for the data center. They were built purposely for simplifying the data center. We also see in compute the physical becoming more and more virtual every single day, with VMware technologies really being at the center of what we're doing with Hyper-V, with KVM, and even container technologies like Docker taking hold. Last but not least, in the cloud, we're talking about hybrid cloud infrastructures, but we talk about SaaS, we talk about IaaS, and when we kind of talk about the hybrid cloud, it really is a combination of the public cloud and data center on-prem technologies coming together as a hybrid universe. We really have left the edge kind of in the back of our minds as almost like a second-class citizen to IT. But what were we talking about? The edge is the front line of business. It's where most of business is getting done, where revenue is getting generated. So we really have to start to think a little bit differently as we've become more and more of a distributed world where workers want to be where they need to be at any given time, and the edge is more and more important to our universe. We've got to stop thinking about the edge as really isolated from data center innovation and start to turn the edge into something that is really more meaningful. It's time to disrupt edge IT. And with Riverbed SteelFusion, We are really delivering the software-defined edge so that you can really rethink the way that you've had to really address your edge IT and address those challenges head-on moving forward. So let's take another look at it in a much simpler way. Okay, so we like to use a really interesting analogy for Edge IT and for what we're doing with SteelFusion. We like to use a smartphone. I assume everybody watching this has a smartphone, and when you first got your smartphone, I need to ask you, did it come with a backpack full of backup and storage and servers for you to walk around with? No, of course not. Of course not. All of what you needed to run your phone and your content was kept up in the cloud and backed up in the cloud, and you have your device to walk around with. Now, when you find a new application that's going to make your life that much more productive, what do? You look at your phone, you go into the App Store, you tap in a few things, and less than 30 seconds later, you're up and running and off to the races. You're that much more productive, right? Okay, what happens when you lose your phone? Well, you lose your phone, you go down to the store, you pick up a new device, you tap in a few things, and just a few minutes later, your contacts, your data, your apps, your services, everything that you use to run your life is right back there on your phone, and you're off to the races. And you see, that is just as simple as we think that remote IT needs to be. We're creating a zero-branch IT approach at Riverbed. And what does that mean to you? It means no more servers, no more storage, no more backup at those remote locations. Everything becomes centralized. It means the ability to instantly provision new applications, new services, even new sites in a very, very, very quick period of time right from your data center. It means instant recovery from outages. When you have an outage, no more parachuting specialists in to go fix the problem. You can fix it right from your data center in almost an instant, no matter where your edge locations are. It means complete data security, because all of your data, 100% of your data is now kept safe in your centralized data center or in the cloud. It means full visibility. And ultimately, for all of that, it means apps that simply work for your users that need to be productive. That's what we're delivering with SteelFusion. Let's take another look at it in a little bit different way. We're simplifying edge infrastructure. So what's SteelFusion? SteelFusion is an integrated appliance that incorporates intelligent storage cache, virtualization, and WAN optimization in one appliance. We're consolidating the infrastructure at the edge to make things much more simple for you. But, as you know, a lot of companies are out there simplifying infrastructure. So what else are we doing? Okay, we're making the edge stateless. And you know what that means. If you're a storage professional, you know that state means there's challenges. It means that there's data sitting out there at the edge that's vulnerable to loss, theft, breach. And again, I don't think you want to be responsible for that. Data means a lot of stateless state means a lot of operational challenges, and what we're doing is we're centralizing data from the edges back to the data center without compromising any user experience at the edge. Last but not least, we're software defining the edge. And what that does for you as IT professionals is it enables you to be in control of every single location in your business, no matter where they are. You get to control what applications, what services need to be at what location at any given time for the workers who need them. That's the software defined edge, and that's what we're delivering today. But as you think this through, it's very important for you to think through a number of different things. Often when we're thinking about deploying new infrastructures in our business or upgrading our infrastructure, we think about the infrastructure. I've got these boxes in my remote offices today, and I'm considering these boxes or those boxes, and we basically compare prices of all the different technology that we need or hardware that we need in a location. And that's great, and it's important for you to do that. But I also propose to you to think about this a little bit more holistically, a little more comprehensively. In addition to thinking about the infrastructure that you're going to lay down, also think about the operations that it takes for you to run remote office IT. Think about the business and the user productivity that gets lost when something goes down or something goes wrong or they're waiting for it to be fixed. How long does it take for you to provision a new site? For you to provision a new application when your CEO says you need to get this up and running in a day? How long does it take for you to recover, and what professionals do you need to send into each and every site in order to do that? How do you standardize across all of your sites when you do a merger or you're in acquisition in your business? All of these are important considerations that you need to keep in mind when you're thinking about how you're going to re-architect your remote office IT from here until the future, because things have changed in our world. Now let's take a look at a couple of customers who've already done this, customers of ours. We're modernizing Edge IT. So first let's look at this government customer. We've got a large government customer. They're global, of course, given the fact that they are with the government. Security is top of mind, critical for them, and they are running a lot of remote locations around the world. And with that, they had attempted to deploy a VDI solution in their business, ultimately with the goal of centralizing all of their data and essentially their operations with very little IT out at the edge. The challenge for this organization is that their users at the edge became unproductive. It wasn't going to work for the users at the edge because the performance of the solution was not working for them. So they turned to Riverbed and SteelFusion to see if we could solve the problem. And while we did, something else really interesting happened. So while they were testing and doing their proof of concept, one of their really remote sites around the world went down. And let me tell you, when one of these remote sites in a very far off, kind of hidden away, tucked away place in the world goes down, what does it take to get back up and running? Well, for this customer, it took over 30 days when a site like this went down. Well, the good news is that SteelFusion was actually being POC'd in this location. And so instead of taking over 30 days to come back up and running in that office, it actually took under 23 hours to get the office back up and running because they were able to re-provision that site, get it back up and running remotely from the central data center in another continent, for that matter, in under 23 hours. Another customer example, social media giant, somebody we all pretty much know. Really interesting company, grew very, very fast with offices all around the world. Compliance was a critical need for them, and of course protecting their clients' data, which in many cases is your data and mine. But they did a very significant look at all of the operations that it took for them to run their remote IT. They were running NetApp storage and UCS servers in each and every one of their locations. And when something went wrong, they needed to fly in specialists for all of these different applications, all these different infrastructure solutions into the location. They had to run a 5-page run book in order to get back up and running. It took them on average about 3 to 7 days when they had an outage to bring each site back up and running. And oh, by the way, last year they had 30 outages. 30 outages. Can you imagine? And some of you probably can, having to send in specialists of all kinds of different technologies to bring something back up and running, and the productivity losses that came in tow. A lot of cost went into that. So ultimately, they took a look at SteelFusion and they tested it out in the process of the POC and saw that they were able to bring a site back up in literally hours as compared to the 3 to 7 days. And they're off to the races deploying SteelFusion around the world. Those are just a couple of examples. We've got lots of really interesting examples for you, but a specialist on SteelFusion would certainly be happy to share with you some of those examples based on the industry that you're in and some of the challenges that you're facing. So we invite you to consider what it might be to really rethink the way that you've been doing remote office IT for your organization as you move forward. Ultimately, delivering optimal security. Security is critical in today's universe, right? I mean, like I said earlier, data means business to us, and you don't want to be the person who's responsible for losing it. So security, we're able to secure 100% of your data in the centralized data center or in the cloud, depending on your business model, without compromising any productivity at the edge, and that's the key. And we are the only company that's able to deliver that today. In addition to that, we're able to encrypt data at rest and in motion so that while it's in flight, you can be secure that nobody's going to be able to breach your data. At the same time, business continuity. Business continuity, we've covered every step along the line, but while we're covering business continuity, you can achieve up to 100 times faster RTO. And RPO in milliseconds or seconds as opposed to hours or days or weeks or even longer. And that's critical to your business because the more time you lose, the more productivity you lose. And again, if you're a factory and you lose time to market, if you're a retail store during holiday season and you're losing business because you're down, that's a significant loss to you. Last but not least, operational agility. We're able to deliver operational agility so that you as IT leaders are back in control. Everything is centralized. All your processes are centralized. And when your business tells you that they need you to roll out a new application to your edge sites or that they need you to pop up a new site on the fly, you can rest assured that that's something that you can do almost instantaneously, in fact, in under 10 minutes. So I would be remiss if I did not bring up the entirety of the Riverbed application performance platform while I'm having this conversation, because many of you guys know Riverbed for WAN optimization. We were born and bred on WAN optimization as the leader in that area, but we do so many more things today. For example, we've been talking about SteelFusion, the software-defined edge, but we also deliver end-to-end visibility of network and application and cloud performance across the board so that you and your organization can troubleshoot any challenges that might come up before your end users actually pick up the phone and call you and start yelling. We're also delivering app-defined networking solutions. Yes, as I mentioned, we are the leader in WAN optimization, and WAN optimization is built into every SteelFusion as well. But we also recently announced our Steel Connect platform, and Steel Connect is revolutionizing networking by making it extremely simple. No more setting up CLI code in order to roll out your networks across the world. Everything is very intuitive and based on human language and policy intelligence that makes it extremely simple for you to roll out your networks at the snap of a finger. Last but not least, SteelFusion. We've been talking about the software-defined edge, and it's time. We live in a distributed world. We live in a world where data has become business to us. It's time to rethink the way we've been doing remote IT forever and a day and really look at how can we centralize our operations for a software-defined edge and bring you back in control. So I thank you for joining us today. It's been great. We look forward to chatting with you further about this and really exploring how this can make a difference across your entire business. Thanks a lot.